Raymond Francis, welcome to Fascinating People.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's delightful.
It's wonderful to have you on the show.
Okay, we're going to have to cut our...
And we can always stop and start over.
When you're ready.
Okay, let's start over.
Gotcha.
Action. Raymond Francis, welcome to Fascinating People. It is such a pleasure to have you here today on Fascinating People. Now see, I messed up. I said, well, on Fascinating People, okay. Raymond Francis, welcome to Fascinating People. It's such a pleasure to have you here on the show.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's a delightful experience.
We're going to the bells are going to interrupt. You hear the chimes? Where are they coming from? Do you know?
Bells?
It's not
Chimes.
making that much of an effect.
Yeah, it is. It will. It will if you begin to talk and be distracted. Molly? Molly? They're coming from someplace. Oh, here they are. Molly, can we turn this off?
We'll do it. Well, it's digital is wonderful.
It's fun. It makes it more fun and more relaxed,
Yeah.
actually. Raymond Francis, welcome to Fascinating People. It's such a pleasure to have you here today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. Would you tell our audience your story? It is so extraordinary.
Well, Sheila, in 1985, I took very seriously ill. That was in early 85. By the end of 85, I was close to death, and I was given days to live. I was dying of liver failure. At the last moment, I had gone to 120 pounds. I'm 6'2". I was 120 pounds. I was skin and bones. I could not move my head. I was unable to move. I had no energy to move. I had days to live, and I was almost dead already. I used my own knowledge of biochemistry to save my life. And after that, it took 2 years to restore myself to health. And I went back to work for a few years, but...
Can you back up just a second? Could you start your story from when you used to travel on airplanes, and then also you went to MIT, right?
Sure.
Give us a little of your educational
Okay.
history, and then we'll get to this.
Gotcha.
Because that was a good warm-up for the audience.
All right. Sheila, I'm a graduate of MIT. Basically, I'm a chemist. That's my background. In 1985, I took very seriously ill and almost died.
Well, let's back up. Remember you told
Right.
the story about how you were on it, traveling
Yes,
the airplane, you were
okay.
traveling the world,
All right.
and you didn't have the kind of energy that you...
Right. Okay, you want to go back to
Yeah,
that part
I
of
want you to go back to when
it.
you
I
first
will.
went to a doctor
Okay.
to get
Yeah.
a checkup.
Sure. Sheila, my background is in science. I'm a chemist. I'm a graduate of MIT. And I went into the business world, and I was president of an international management consulting firm. I did business all over the world, lived on 747s bouncing between the US and Europe, and the US and China, and the US and Japan. So I had to live a very vigorous lifestyle. I started to slow down. I started to not have as much energy as I used to have. It was more difficult to get out of bed, more difficult to make those 4:30 planes at the airport and get out of the plane in Tokyo and go immediately into a business meeting and function.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 46 at the time that I was slowing down. So I went to my doctor and complained to my doctor that I didn't have the energy I used to have anymore. Well, the doctor did thousands of dollars worth of diagnostic testing and came back and said, "You are in perfect health." And I said, "Doctor, if I'm in perfect health, how come I feel this way?" And he said, "You're getting older." And I said, "Doc, I've never felt this way before in my whole life." And he said, "You've never been this old before in your whole life." And I went away from that meeting thinking, you know, if this is what getting old is all about, I don't want to do this because, this is bad. And so I began to actually believe that this is what happens to other people as well, that this is what happened when you got older.
And you're not alone,
Yes, I'm not alone.
or we're not alone.
Well, we're not, yes. Fatigue is the #1 symptom reported to doctors in America. And I'll tell you why. Because when your body starts to malfunction, when your biochemistry starts to get abnormal, the first thing that goes is your ability to produce energy. And so the first thing you're going to notice is fatigue, not having the energy you used to have. But pretty soon, for most people, what happens is that becomes normal, and then they think that's normal. Not having that energy is normal. They forget what it used to feel like when they had lots and lots of energy.
So you went to the doctor and he told you there was really no choice but to
Nothing wrong.
feel the way you were feeling and
Yes.
to age.
Yes.
This is just
To-
a normal way of
Absolutely.
living.
This was normal. It was normal. Because doctors have, in the present technology used by modern medicine, we have no way of measuring, no protocols for measuring the early decline in health. The only time the doctor can measure something is when you have what we call a diagnosable disease. And until you attain this diagnosable disease, you are in perfect health, theoretically, but you're really not. No, you're very sick. Very few Americans are in perfect health, as I've found out in my studies.
You've learned a lot of things in this journey, I'm sure.
Oh, it's been an odyssey. But
Odyssey.
but you know, at this point in time, it's a joy. I have such a thirst for knowledge that I never stop. I work 7 days a week. I work 14 hours a day. I devour more medical and scientific journals in a week than the average doctor does in a year.
Bravo, bravo.
Yeah.
Now, what
it's-
was the next step after the
Well,
doctor just said there was
two
no
more
hope?
years passed, and I was even more tired.
Did you go to any more doctors?
No, not in that 2-year period. I was even more tired, and I had very, very heightened allergic reactions. I became reactive to a number of things.
What kind of diet were you on?
The standard American diet, and perhaps even better than the standard American diet. I didn't consume, large amounts of sugar or things like that, and I certainly ate in some of the best restaurants in the world. The clients that I had, the major corporations, the governments, I was wined and dined in the best restaurants on the planet.
Where were you born?
I was born in New York City and grew up outside of Boston.
Well, I was born in Tennessee, and in Tennessee we started our breakfast with grits and fried eggs and scrambled eggs and bacon and sausage and biscuits and all that. Did you have that kind of a morning routine?
Pretty much, yeah.
The
And
standard American diet.
standard American diet, but actually, some of that isn't too bad. It's the other parts of the standard American diet that are a real disaster. But
you discovered that later.
I discovered that later.
So, and 2 years, you really didn't go to any other doctor?
No other doctors, because I was assuming that this is the way that you're supposed to feel. But as it became obvious that I was feeling more and more tired and more allergic, I decided to go to an allergist. I said, well, I'm going to go to a specialist. I'm going to an allergist.
And what were your symptoms?
Well, sneezing fits, itchy eyes, it was a lot of common allergic symptoms. And of course, fatigue, lots and lots of fatigue. So I went to the allergist, and as I walked through the door to the doctor's office that morning, I had no idea that that would be the last day of life as I had known it.
My mouth is dropping.
Yeah. The doctor administered a very, very sensitive type of allergy test called an intradermal test.
How do you say that again?
Intradermal.
Intradermal.
And did not inform me that people die from these things quite regularly, that deaths are reported to the FDA regularly, and that people can become very damaged from them. And it's a very sensitive test. So if you're very sensitive to something, it is possible to have a very large reaction to it. Well, I did. My immune system spun into an out-of-control reaction. I went to bed. I did not wake up for 24 hours.
Were you able to drive yourself home from the test?
I drove, yes, I felt well after the test. It was a delayed reaction, but
And you were 48 years old at this
I was
point.
48 years old at that time. I was working at my desk, and all of a sudden I felt like I had been hit by a freight train. And I was forced to go to bed. I did not wake up for 24 hours. When I did, my arm was twice its normal size. It was oozing plasma. My immune system went into a systemic catastrophic reaction. And usually, you know, we all experience having a cold or the flu or something, and it might take us in some cases even a couple of weeks to feel better. So you're always, you know that you're going to feel better in a few days or a couple of weeks. Not this time. I just stayed that way week after week, month after month after month. Unable to get well, unable to function, unable to get out of bed. I became acutely chemically sensitive. I developed very acute fatigue. I actually subsequently was diagnosed with 4 different autoimmune syndromes, including lupus, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, Sjogren's syndrome. I was very, very ill and unable to function in any meaningful way.
Sounds like you were at death's door.
Almost. And this went on month after month. I went to 36 medical specialists during those months. 36 of them.
Specialists.
Yes.
That means medical doctors, MDs?
MDs, yeah, top specialists. I went to the best of the best. And I had so many different symptoms that I went to so many different specialists. I went to neurologists, gastroenterologists, rheumatologists, ophthalmologists. I mean, you know, I had so many symptoms. I went to a specialist for each symptom. None of them were of any help. After 10 months of this, one doctor said, "Oh boy, I can help you. All you have to do is take this drug." And I foolishly took the drug. The drug poisoned my liver.
What was it called?
Well, this was an antiparasitic drug, an antibiotic drug, metronidazole.
How do you say it again?
Metronidazole. And it's known to be toxic to the liver. Known to be toxic, and it was.
It didn't give you a list of the side effects?
No. Well, one of the side effects was it almost destroyed my liver. So I was very quickly, within a matter of weeks, at death's door and dying of liver failure and unable to get well. Death was a medical certainty.
Now, after going through all of this, you know, after being with this allergist who is now, you know, completely messed up your immune system, and then going to different specialists, and now having this man inject you with
It wasn't an injection, was it a pill?
It was a pill,
Okay,
yes, it was a pill.
Giving you medicine that
Yes.
was, you know, destroying your liver. How did your opinion change of the medical profession?
Well, he's telling the story. Like
Well-
he's going to tell the story.
You're asking, okay.
I think that, you know, after these
Just
experiences.
go to the story,
Yeah.
Raymond, Raymond, tell us the story from you took the pill, and then what happened?
Well, nothing at first. I took the pill and nothing happened. It was only after I was supposed to take the pill for 2 weeks. And it was only after I finished my 2-week supply. It was like a day after I finished my 2-week supply, it hit me like a truck. And when your liver fails, I mean, already, I didn't have a lot of energy to begin with. After this liver failure hit, I had no energy at all.
Did you have someone taking care of you?
Yes, absolutely at that time. In fact, even my brother flew out across the country to look after me. And as I lay there in bed, I would tell my head to move. I would say, "Head, move." It wouldn't. I did not have enough energy to even move my head. There was just nothing there. And I had been reduced literally to a human skeleton with a little bit of skin draped on it.
What was your weight, did you say?
120 pounds.
And you were 6'2"?
6'2", that's right.
Wow.
Yes, it was. It was.
You were at death's door.
Death's
for sure.
door. Yeah, death was a medical
So
certainty.
Did you have a miracle? What happened?
It was a miracle. The miracle was that my brain was still able to function enough for me to remember enough biochemistry to at least try an experiment to save my life, and the experiment worked. And within 48 hours, I was able to sit up in bed, and this was truly a miracle. It took me 2 years.
Now, how did you accomplish that?
Actually, I took some vitamin C. And
What kind of vitamin C did you take?
It was just, I sent my brother off to get some, and I don't even remember what. He went to a health food store.
What inspired you to take vitamin C?
Well, I remembered from biochemistry that vitamin C was critical to liver detoxification. It's a molecule that the liver needs in order to perform its detoxification duties and functions. And so my thought was maybe vitamin C might help. And I had already read a book that my brother had given to me about Norman Cousins, and how Norman Cousins had saved his life by taking vitamin C. So I thought, it's worth an experiment. And I only took about 4 grams.
Power of writing a book, huh?
Oh, yes.
Norman Cousins.
The power of writing. I'm sure that book has helped millions of people. Very inspiring book.
True.
And here Norman Cousins was a literary man. He was not a scientist, and yet he was dying of an incurable disease, and he was able to save his own life. How do you do this? You're dying, and you're able to do research that will save your life, and your doctors, who spent their whole career, can't do the same thing?
Some kind of message, isn't it?
It is. It tells you something.
So you went on his program, the Norman Cousins program?
Well, no, not really. I just started taking some vitamin. He didn't really have a program, but the fact that he had used vitamin C and that it was instrumental, he was dying of an autoimmune disease, and I also had autoimmune diseases. The fact that he had did this it just gave me the inspiration to try it. And I'm sure it was divine guidance. I mean, I feel that my life at this point is divinely guided, and I'm here for a purpose, and I'm trying to achieve that purpose. And I'll tell you about the purpose as we go along here. But I did recover.
How fast did you recover?
It took 2 years to get to where.
How much vitamin C?
Oh, a lot of vitamin C. I took more and more and more.
How much each day did you take? I'm curious.
At that time, I was probably taking 24,000 milligrams a day.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of vitamin C.
It's a lot of vitamin C, but
And
quite.
what kind of nutrition were you using? Were you eating any special diet?
Yes, it was mostly a vegetarian diet. I bought a juicer. I drank a lot of vegetable juices. And
Were they
I.
organic or did you just regular
Oh, all
vegetables?
organic, yes,
All
yeah.
organic.
I went to an all organic diet. Well, I was chemically sensitive. One of my symptoms was very acute chemical sensitivities. And in all the years since then, I've only met 3 people who were more chemically sensitive than I was. So I have to tell you, I was exquisitely chemically sensitive. I was unable to speak on a telephone, for instance, because I could actually smell the fumes coming off of the plastic on the phone, and it was sufficient to just blow my brain. I would become totally disoriented if I was exposed to that much. And in fact, I even went to the Mojave Desert to live for a while. I rented a home in the middle of the desert with well water and adobe construction, and I lived there. And I got to tell you, if I would go out walking and if there was a car coming in the middle of the desert, I would have to figure out which way the wind was blowing and run upwind before the car got to me. Otherwise, it would blow me away. I mean, just one car produces enough pollution to blow you away.
This
So
is an odyssey.
it is an odyssey, yes, yes. And it was a lot of experimentation, a lot of trial and error, a lot of learning. I actually had to bake my learning materials, to bake the chemicals out of the materials so that I could read them.
Did you see that? We're gonna have to back up from that one. That was like a
That was
whew,
pretty,
it was so
yeah,
beautiful.
like,
I hope
whoa, hey.
Oh, what a fire. Maybe Norman Cousins decided to join us here today.
He may have,
The
that might be the
spirit.
ghost of Norman
I
Cousins.
know my Dr. Malby, who was one of my guides in my life. I feel his spirit is here because he taught me a lot of what you're talking about.
Yes,
And about, so it's very inspiring to meet you.
yes.
So, okay, then you said you went on a vegetarian juice regimen.
Yes, went on a
Vitamin
vegetarian
C.
juice regimen. All the foods I ate were organic.
Did you take herbs for your,
I actually didn't take herbs, no. I didn't know a lot then. I really used vitamin C, a lot of vitamin C for the liver. Oh,
And that'd be the fire alarm.
yeah, that's fire alarm.
hey,
Continue.
continue the story, please.
Where did we leave off?
Where you were getting better. You were getting
Okay.
better. And you were taking the juice and you were doing a vegetarian
Right.
regimen with lots of 24, or was it
20,
28,000
24,000
milligrams
Yeah.
every day? You took that throughout the day, right?
throughout the day, yes.
Yeah.
You take, vitamin C should be taken throughout the day.
Did you take the vitamin C powder? I know I've been trying this.
I used vitamin C powder, and in fact, I found a very special one that was extremely pure. And that's very important, especially for a chemically sensitive person, because if you're taking a large amount of something, and there's even a little bit of impurities in it, you're going to get a lot of impurities. And that's very, very special for, it's very important to a chemically sensitive person. However, as I've subsequently discovered, it's also very important for the average individual, because those impurities put a tax on the average individual, just as they put a tax on the chemically compromised person. It's just that the chemically sensitive person cannot pay the tax, and so they get damaged, whereas the average person can pay the tax, but they're being taxed. They're reducing their overall competence. They're using up their critical reserves, and ultimately it will make them sick as well. It just won't be as dramatic.
So did you start making a diary? You started keeping track of everything you were doing?
I kept track of everything I ate and everything I took and what my reactions were, and I learned a lot
Then
from this process.
Did you keep any doctors, or did you decide to alleviate?
Oh, no, I certainly wasn't seeing any doctors. I was learning this and doing it all on my own. There weren't any doctors.
That
There
was
weren't any.
life-changing for you, wasn't it?
Very, very life-changing
Did you
experience.
say it was 35 doctors? You said?
36 doctors.
36?
Yeah, 36.
So you decided to no more doctors.
Yeah, no more. Well, they didn't know anything. After you go to that many top specialists and they can't help you, and they never even said anything very intelligent. I mean, it was, most of them just sat there and shook their heads and sent a bill.
One of my close friends had lupus, and she went through the whole UCLA. She said every doctor at UCLA for several years used her. She felt like she was a guinea pig, and she just finally said no more doctors.
Right.
And she wouldn't.
Right. Well, modern medicine, as we know it, is scientifically invalid. Not completely, but for the most part, it is scientifically invalid. It doesn't work. And that's one reason why we have so many sick people, is medicine doesn't work. It is all founded on what we scientists call Newtonian physics. Unfortunately, you cannot apply Newtonian physics to a human being because a human being is a biological system, and biological systems are nonlinear, whereas Newtonian physics is linear. So we're trying to apply a science to a biological system that is inapplicable. And that's why medicine doesn't work. That's why we've spent over $1 trillion on medical research. And where are we? We haven't.
Someone told me that more people live off of cancer and AIDS than have it.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. There are more people working in the AIDS industry than there are people with AIDS.
And cancer too.
Cancer is a $1 billion a day industry. And what we're looking at here is a tragedy that is just beyond belief, where our whole medical system is ineffective because it is not scientifically based. And we've spent all this money on medical research, and we have yet to find the cause or the cure for a single chronic disease. So just look at AIDS.
Now, if someone were going to debate you, they would probably mention the serum that was given for polio.
Uh-huh.
Please, I know that my doctors years ago told me how fortunate I was to live in this age because we had vaccinations and we have vaccines, and I don't know if you've looked at the news lately, but everyone's taking the flu shot.
Right. Well, it's very unfortunate. Actually, vaccinations may turn out to be one of the greatest blunders of modern medicine. And
I've heard that many times.
very, very, very damaging to the immune system. It really constitutes a medical assault on the immune system. Giving vaccinations to small children really violates the Geneva Convention. It is a violation of the Nuremberg Code, really. It's the Nuremberg Code, where we are experimenting on young children without their consent. So enormous damage.
I know a doctor that was told he had to give these children in the United States a new vaccine so they could enter school. And I saw tears in his eyes, and he told me that one of the little children that he gave this shot to, because he was forced to, under the law, he said she had beautiful long blonde hair, and that after he gave her that vaccine, she lost all of her hair.
Well, it's good she didn't lose her life. It is a medical assault on the immune system. Very, very, very damaging. You die. Actually, the experiments they did on vaccinations going back a century ago, what they found was that if they vaccinated the animals, that yes, some of them became immune for a period of time to whatever it is they were supposed to be immune to. But what happened was the vaccinated animals died younger than the animals that were not vaccinated. And indeed, there are people all over America now who don't vaccinate their children. And as I travel around and speak with these people, they tell me over and over again that when a flu epidemic runs through their schools, their children are the only ones that don't get sick.
Isn't that amazing?
Because their immune systems are stronger. Right?
That's amazing.
So it's not a good thing to do with the vaccinations.
Well, that was really big up in Florida State when I was just in college. You know, they give away free flu shots because of this flu season. I don't take them.
Right.
Because, my mom and dad have said, it's not a good thing for you.
Not a
And
good
his
thing.
doctor was kind enough to do that too, but he puts his reputation, he puts his license at a risk by telling the truth.
Well, I forget, it was, I think, 3 years ago now, the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons at their annual meeting voted for a resolution calling for an end to mandatory vaccinations. And as if that's astounding, isn't it? More astounding, the resolution passed without a single dissenting vote.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, they said it was a violation of the Nuremberg codes. In other words,
They finally are educating themselves?
forced vaccination is a crime against humanity.
It really is. I agree with that. And the other thing I was told, Raymond, is that most doctors to go to medical school get their loans from drug companies who finance medical schools.
Yes.
And these people were telling me that medical doctors actually become legal drug pushers. My own experience was when I was just 16, I wanted to lose 5 pounds. And the doctor handed me a handful of free samples of a diet pill and said, here, take these for me to lose 5 pounds, because I was raised to go to your doctor for everything. I went to the doctor for everything. And they give out free samples of every kind of drug you could imagine.
Yes.
And so when these people told me that doctors are like legal drug pushers, I said, well, tell me why you feel that way. And then that's what they said, is that the medical schools are funded by the drug companies.
Yes.
And the doctors get their licenses. They get their loans to go to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
Is this true? Have you found this to be true?
Well, I don't know if they get their loans from the drug companies. That may happen. I'm not really aware of it.
If you find
but,
out, because I'm
but
not going to go public with
but
that.
certainly-
I want to
certainly-
educate the public.
Certainly, what they learn in medical school is the use of drugs. So what they learn is a paradigm based on the use of these chemicals. And this is what I call, or has been called, the toximolecular approach to medicine.
Could you spell that for me, please?
It's TOXI, toximolecular. And of the 20th century, came out with, he coined a word, the orthomolecular approach to medicine. Now, ortho means same. So what Pauling was saying is that we should take molecules that are familiar to the body, that are the same that the body uses, and give those to the body to cure disease, orthomolecular. Whereas existing medicine uses the toximolecular. In other words, we give people things that are poisons, that actually interfere with normal cell chemistry in order to get some kind of desirable effect. So if we want to lower the pressure in your veins and your arteries, we poison your kidneys so that you get rid of water and you can lower the pressure in your blood system, you see. So
I have friends who are taking 20, 30 pills a day.
That's insane, because after you're taking more than about 3 pills a day, there isn't anyone on earth who understands all of the biochemistry of what's happening in your body. And I can tell you, after you're taking more than just a few pills a day, there isn't a cell in your body that is working right anymore.
Now, what pills do you feel are safe?
None.
Then even 3 is really not advisable. A lot of people say they have to take it to keep their blood pressure.
No. No, the body knows how to regulate blood pressure. It regulates it just fine all by itself. It doesn't need any help.
So you threw all the drugs away and you went on a
Absolutely, absolutely. I haven't taken anything since 1985 except vitamins. Drugs are toxins. That's how they work. That is exactly how they work. They are toxic. They poison cells in one part of the body in
There is such a higher purpose happening in my life, and you're an affirmation. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Being here with you is such an affirmation. I was raised by a family that, well, my grandmother was a nurse, so we had all kinds of drugs around. And so I had a similar experience, not as dramatic, I don't believe, as what you had. But, so tell me, what is your message to the world, Raymond, and what can we do to help each other to become more conscious and aware and live healthier lives?
Well, Sheila, what we have to do is get back to nature. Human beings are designed to be healthy. Now, more than 3 out of 4 Americans have a diagnosable chronic disease. If you're over age 65, 9 out of 10 Americans have a diagnosable chronic disease. If you're under age 18, 1 out of 4 Americans have a diagnosable chronic disease. The amount of disease in this society is astonishing, just astonishing. And it's going to wipe us out, by the way, and I'll get to that. But
if we allow it to.
If we allow it to,
people like
yes.
You
if we allow it
getting
to.
the message, like for example, the fact that we are learning to become more smoke-free in this world, and you go to Europe, and it's like unbelievable how everyone's smoking like we were 30 years ago.
They don't understand.
So we do have some light at the end of this tunnel.
Right. However, I might say that, even in Japan, where I've done a lot of business, they smoke a lot more than we do here. But the effect on them is far less because they eat a better diet.
Ah.
Yeah. So it's different if you smoke here rather than you smoke there. You get a different effect. Still, it's not a healthy thing to do, so I'm not advising that people smoke cigarettes.
I would certainly like the tobacco companies to invest in cleaning up the environment and creating a healthier world.
Well, there's a lot of other companies that need to do that. But
well, actually, Raymond, we're working with Norman Ratner, and we're working with companies all over the planet who are committed to just that.
Well, that is just wonderful because that's what we need to do.
Teamwork.
We need to get back to, human beings are designed to be healthy, and in fact, in my book, Never Be Sick Again, I talk about healthy populations who lived to an average age of 120, and they lived to those ages without being sick a day in their life. They never even had a cold, for the most part. So we know that human beings are capable of living a long, healthy life. We also know we're not doing this in our society.
Well,
We
you're
think
a perfect example of someone who's doing it. I mean, I didn't ask your age, but you look very healthy and.
well, I'm getting younger every year.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, you can reduce your biological age. You can't do anything with your chronological age, unfortunately. I wish I could.
How old are you? Do you mind? If
I'm 66 now. But I just had my arteries measured several months ago. Very sophisticated computerized test using, the latest technology. My arteries are 30 years old. I have the arteries of a 30-year-old.
So you've really reversed your.
I have really reversed my aging process, yes. I'm getting younger every year. And
What kind of a program are you on?
I eat food, real food, and I stay away from toxins, and I exercise, and I meditate.
What kind of exercise?
I like to hike. I do go to the gym and I lift weights, but I also do something called rebounding on a special rebounder, and that is very, very effective. It's something anyone can do in the privacy of their home. It takes only minutes a day to do
Is
it.
that one of the little jogging, you jog on it? Or
You jog on it,
jog
yeah.
on
It's a
it,
little
yeah.
mini rebounder, but it's
Right.
got to be the right kind. And then you just sort of bounce on it, and this has a profound effect on the chemistry of your cells.
It helps the lymph system, right?
Helps the lymph system as well, yes.
Like this on your chest, that's what I was told to do on
Yeah.
the rebounder.
Well, the rebounding, you don't even need to do that if you're rebounding. The
great.
rebounder does it all.
And how much time are you spending on the rebounder?
20 minutes a day is quite sufficient.
Oh, that's great.
I also sauna about 4 times a week. I sauna for about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 15 minutes.
That is wonderful.
It's essential. Not only wonderful, it's essential. Every American needs to do this. And I'll explain to you why. You see, our bodies were designed at a time when we were not exposed to the oil-soluble toxins that we have in our environment today. It's just a century ago we began the petroleum age. And today we are inundated in oil-soluble toxins every moment of the day. Our body does not know how to get rid of these toxins.
Of those toxins?
Oh, sure. The gasoline that you fuel your car with, the fumes that are coming off of your foam mattress or off of your polyester shirt, or the fumes coming off of your magazine or your newspaper, or the fumes coming off of your detergent, or off of the foam in the furniture of your house, or the plastic in the carpet, your nylon carpet or your whatever, your polyester carpet, or the fumes coming out of that, the fumes coming out of the plywood that your house is made out of. We are inundated in these chemicals.
How do we reverse this?
With a sauna. You see, the body was not designed to get rid of these because we were never before exposed to them. And so they bioaccumulate in our cells. They're accumulating in our body. The average American is accumulating between 300 and 500 man-made chemicals. And they are accumulating to toxic concentrations where they do make you sick. The only way, the most efficient way to get rid of them is with a sauna. So I recommend saunaing on a regular basis. Every American needs to do this.
I did when I was much younger, but I haven't been doing it when I need it the most.
I just approved a home sauna, by the way. It took me 2 years of experimentation. It's called, the brand name is Sunlight, but there's a specific example in there that's, we tried to find a wood that was very non-toxic, and we finally succeeded. And
you've created this sauna?
Well, I didn't create it, but I certainly worked to help get it right and to approve it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now you also have a radio show, so our
Yes.
audience can tune in. Will you tell us?
Yes, well, the radio show is syndicated. It's called the Beyond Health Show, and the purpose of the Beyond Health Show is to take you beyond health as you know it. And it's on the internet. You'd go to beyondhealth.com. No matter where you live, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can go to beyondhealth.com and listen to the show.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And then to tune into the radio, you can go on the radio?
You can also go on beyondhealth.com and see where it's playing in your area, if it is, and we're in 4 states right now. We'll be in more states later on.
Really?
So
be around the world?
Yes, well, we're around the world now on the internet. We have people that listen to the show in Germany and England. I mean,
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, yeah.
And tell us how you show us your book, if you would. I see the book is
Sure.
there.
Never Be Sick Again. And I have to tell you, the central thesis of this book has been called the most important medical discovery in 200 years. And I'll tell you what it is. There is only one disease. One of the reasons that modern medicine has been such a failure is that modern medicine believes there are thousands of different diseases with thousands of different causes and thousands of different solutions. And we spend billions and billions of dollars on research to find cures for these diseases. It's all a waste. There's only one disease, and that's a malfunctioning cell. We're all made of cells. These are the basic building blocks of the human body. A cell is a living thing. For instance, bacteria are single-cell organisms, you see. So we're just made of a whole bunch of cells stuck together that, and many of them produce special things, of course. You know, a muscle cell is different from an eye cell and different from a liver cell. So we have a lot of specialized cells. We have about 200 different kinds of specialized cells, but we're made of cells. If every cell in your body is working just the way it's supposed to work, you cannot be sick. It is physically impossible to be sick if every cell is functioning the way it's supposed to work.
And how do you achieve that?
You achieve that by giving every cell what it needs on a daily basis to function properly. And when you don't do this, we call this deficiency. Okay? When you don't give a cell everything it needs and the cell is deficient, it will malfunction.
And that's what you describe in the book, and how we can...
Absolutely, and what you do.
we can.
Right.
You're obviously buy your book.
I'll
and
do that.
Go to your website
Yeah.
and.
I'll.
Do you sell vitamins? Do you sell the
Oh,
vitamins?
what I do is I find products that are exceptional, and then we sell them all in one place.
Did you happen to bring an extra book that I can have signed?
I
today?
don't, yeah, unfortunately.
I forgot to bring mine in the car. Okay, go ahead, you ready?
In fact, this is
Okay.
Molly's book.
Aha, okay. All right, continue, please.
Yes, so there is only one disease. There are only two causes of disease, and that's deficiency and toxicity. So what we're doing here is constructing a simple model of health, one disease and two causes, that you can teach to a child. And yet, the simplicity gives it so much power that we could literally, we are at this point able to end disease in America. All we have to do is put this knowledge to work.
How do we teach children this?
Well, I've actually started a foundation. It's called Healthy America Foundation. The purpose of Healthy America is to end the epidemic of chronic disease in America through education. What we need is a massive, unprecedented educational campaign in this country to teach not only our adults, but most especially all of our children, the principles of good health and how to stay healthy for a lifetime. We now know how to do this. We can teach people how to avoid deficiency, how to avoid toxicity, how to never be sick again. We can teach that right now. We
Now,
know
how do
how
you
to
do
do
that
it.
when you hear doctors all the time saying that, oh, you should have one alcoholic drink a day, or you should have 1 or 2 glasses of wine a day? That this, and I mean, I've learned from personal experience that it's not helping my system to put those toxic substances in my body,
Well,
in my bloodstream.
I think that, again, we have to look back historically at what humans did, who lived healthy lives. Certainly, I love a glass of wine with my meal, and I enjoy it very much. The body is able to detoxify the alcohol in a glass of wine, but you don't want to sit there and drink a whole bottle. So
my body's not able to.
moderation
Very
is the key.
sensitive.
Yes, because so many of us, well, when my liver was failed, I couldn't touch any alcohol whatsoever.
So you built your
I've
immune
rebuilt
system
my
up.
liver. I
So
can
you
can
can
tolerate.
tolerate it.
Oh, I can drink a whole bottle of wine, and you know, it's so I've rebuilt my liver. So, and you can do this, you see. So if you can't tolerate it, it's because your body isn't
It's just, I don't
functioning.
feel as good the next day. I can
uh-huh.
walk upstairs and be strong and healthy and feel great, but even with 1/2 of a little glass of wine the night before, I don't feel as good as I did without it.
Well,
So
you-
why should I have it if I don't?
Well,
have it?
you don't want it then. You
I
see,
have red
you
zinger
don't
herbal
want
tea
it.
instead.
But you have to understand that this is probably because there's some biochemistry in your body that is not functioning at the level that it could be functioning
Well, I'm
at.
certainly not taking the vitamin C
Yeah.
that you are.
Ah.
Now, does a normal person take vitamin C? I mean, you said 28,000.
Well, a normal person, I recommend that the average person, the average adult, take no less than 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, and more logically, 10 or 12,000 a day. I'd rather see an adult on 10 or 12,000, but 6,000 would be a minimum.
Well, I'm going home and take some more vitamin C.
Well, you need to take very pure vitamin C, because when you're taking larger amounts, if there's a little bit of impurities, you're going to be damaged by it. You're going to be hurt by it.
Well, I'm going to get some of your vitamin C.
And indeed, for people who are not well, taking a little bit of vitamin C can actually be hazardous, because vitamin C mobilizes toxins in the body. And so let's say that your biochemistry is screwed up, you're an average American, you're getting older, you're kind of teetering on the brink of something, and you take 500 milligrams of vitamin C a day. That's enough to mobilize the toxins and get them out there. It's not enough to detoxify them. You can actually be doing damage.
Well, I look forward to seeing you on Larry King and Oprah and all the big shows.
Well,
The more we can get you into the public eye, and we can pass the message on, and
We're hoping to be there, because our message is a very positive one. And surely, I have to tell you, the international economists are saying that the United States of America within 30 years, will become a third world country. That our government is going to go bankrupt trying to pay for our health care costs. Our businesses are going bankrupt. People will be out of work. Just think of this, right now, there are 4 workers who support 1 retiree. In the year 2030, there'll only be 2 workers who support 1 retiree. The tax burden on those 2 workers will be so enormous that they will not be able to maintain the standard of living that their parents maintained. Our standard of living will go down.
And the solution is?
The solution is to keep people healthy. See, it's okay if people age. There's nothing wrong with aging. It's a natural process. What is not okay is having people get sick and run up huge healthcare costs. We can teach people right now how not to get sick. And we must start doing this immediately if we're to save this situation. And my analogy is this. Remember back just a few years ago, Shirley, we had the Y2K problem. You know, the computer programs didn't go to the year 2000, and so airplanes were going to fall out of the sky, power plants would shut down, your bank was going to lose your account, the world was going to stop. People were actually buying generators for their homes, they were buying food, you know, it was a disaster was coming. Well, the year 2000 came, the disaster didn't. Why? Because we were wrong? Or because everybody started to go to work to solve the problem so it wasn't going to happen? And this is the same kind of situation here. This country is going to self-destruct because of our health care costs unless we do something about it. Now is the time to start. We don't have much time left. Medicare will double in just 10 years. And that alone is going to have a significant impact on our country's future.
And what about all those people that are living off of the research to cure cancer and AIDS, and that they keep telling us that we have to raise more money? I mean, I see Elizabeth Taylor raising millions or billions of dollars.
It's very sad, very sad to see that.
That kind of,
We
your
can,
foundation.
yes, we can use that money to educate people not to get sick rather than trying to find the cure for so-called diseases.
I'm sending her a copy of this interview.
Good, wonderful.
Yes, let's get Elizabeth Taylor healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. We can make her healthy. We can take years off of her chronological age. You know, years off of her biological age, I should say, not chronological. But yes, we can reduce. Well, I have a lady who works for me. She's just worked for me for a year now. She's approximately 10 to 15 years younger today than she was 1 year ago.
Well, I'm going to the sauna and I'm going to learn all I can from you. And we're running out of time here. Raymond, thank you so much for being on the show. And this will be the first of many interviews, I hope. Thank you for being part of Fascinating People, because you are extraordinary in every way. And we hope to be able to help you with your quest. And join your odyssey.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure. Mwah. A spiritual connection, and with the body,
Yes.
mind, and with the spirit,
Right.
at least.
Got it.
Okay, let's keep
And
it
we're also
let's
studying
keep it to
quantum.
5 minutes.
Okay, we're also studying quantum holography. Tell us about the spiritual part of your program or your life experience.
Well, the spiritual part was a very important part of my recovery process. I think we have to understand, and I think that modern physics helps us to understand it. A human being is a combination in one entity of body, mind, and spirit. We are a spirit acting through a physical body, and all of that is a single entity. So you can't separate them. You can't, we separate them in language because we have to, but in truth, they're not separate. They're the same thing. And in order to be healthy, you really have to balance all three. Body, mind, and spirit have to be balanced.
And how did you do that?
I actually was an a-religious person, and I'm not a religious person now, but I am a spiritual person. And I certainly discovered my spiritual dimension during my illness. You know, illness is a strange way. It gives you a lot of time to think about things that you don't normally think about. And I did tap into my spiritual self, and that was indeed instrumental in my recovery process.
Did you use prayer?
I did use prayer. I used meditation and prayer, and I have to tell you, I don't want to get back to physical things, but I used exercise as well. And I have a mountain where I live, and when I was very, very sick, anyone else in my condition would have been in a hospital with tubes stuck in them. I was climbing the mountain.
Wow.
If you're not moving, you're dying. Cells
Say
have
that
to
again,
move.
please.
If you're not moving, you're dying. Cells have to move in order to be healthy. That's one of the things we've learned. Cells must move in order to function properly. I would climb this mountain, and I would walk for a ways and then run out of energy, and I would have to stop. And then I'd want to start again, and I'd say, okay, feet, okay, move. They wouldn't. They wouldn't. I'd have to stand there and say a prayer and say, you know, God, all of the energy in the universe is available to me now through you. And I would feel energy coming into my body, and I could walk some more.
Sounds like a science of mind or Christian science.
Yes, very much so.
I've heard amazing stories. Oh, tell us the story about the man who stabbed his wrist.
Oh, sure. That was Jack Schwartz. I met many, many interesting people in this odyssey of wellness that I've gone through. And one man was named Jack Schwartz. And I had two physician friends of mine who had been to separate medical meetings. And they both came to me independently and said, you've got to meet this man, you know. And Jack would go to medical meetings, and he would roll up his sleeve, and he would take this big needle and go wham.
Now, what would the needle look like? Was it a big, thick one, like a
It was
ice pick?
yeah, it was more like an ice pick, or you know, or maybe a barbecue skewer or something. And he'd put it through his arm, and then he'd let the doctors tug on it, and then he would take it out, and he would instantly heal the wound. Well, Jack did all of this with his mind and spirit. So I called him up and I said, yeah, I'd really like to meet you. And he said, okay. So I drove up to Oregon where he lived, and I spent a week there, and I saw him every day for a week. Jack didn't eat. He didn't need to eat, by the way. Nobody needs to eat.
I did hear about breatharians.
Yeah, Jack would eat maybe 3 meals a week because he really enjoyed food. It wasn't because he needed to. And I'd sit with him, and he'd be there, and he said, well, I'm having breakfast now, you know, just sitting behind his desk. An amazing, amazing man.
What part of Oregon does he live in?
Well, it was in Ashland, Oregon, but he died a few years ago. I never thought Jack would die, but he died. But they would pound rusty nails into his body. They would feed him. Oh yeah, they would feed.
How old was he when he died?
He was in his 80s.
Oh,
in his 80s, yeah.
He went down to be 120. Though,
he went down to South
program.
America. Went down to South America, and unfortunately got exposed to a pesticide spill down there, and never quite recovered from it. So I'm very sad that he's missing. But Jack, when he was in his 70s, I mean, he had the energy of a teenager. He slept maybe 3 hours a night, and just never ended, never stopped.
Were you able to use some of the same techniques? Did he teach you?
He did teach me, yes. Yeah, and
Are
I
you going
was.
to be teaching the world?
I'm hoping to. I'm hoping to. And one of the things that inspired me is the first day that I met Jack. I sat in front of his desk, and he looked at me, and it was the first time we met. And he said, you know, you're a genius. And I said, oh dear, yeah, but it's been a curse all of my life because nobody understands me. And he said, yeah, but he said, the reason you're here on Earth, he says, you're here to bring new ideas to the world, and that is your purpose for being here. And that's what I'm doing.
You
Wonderful.
sure are. Thank you so much for being with us. And this, like I said, is the first of many interviews in my vision. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your
Oh.
inviting me.